Hi, this is Jana and welcome to my kitchen. This evening we are preparing fish and chips. I'm so excited. My husband's traveling today and so he's not going to be home for dinner tonight. So it's like he does not really particularly care for fresh fish. He loves seafood, shrimp and shellfish, but he's not real big on fish. So perfect night for me to fix what I like. So anyway, I'm going to make my beer batter. 2 cups of all-purpose flour. 1 to 1.5 teaspoons. Now you use your measuring spoons. I know my hand, and I know where I'm at. 1 teaspoon and 1.5 teaspoons. So there's that. And then I'm going to put in not quite a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to stir this up. And then this is optional. This is paprika. This is not smoked paprika. This is just paprika. I'm going to put in the very smallest amount, but you know what that does? That helps your fish to brown beautifully. You won't really taste it when it's in that small amount, but it helps it to brown just a little more golden. Okay, so now I have a light beer. I'm not advertising for anybody. I do not get paid for my, not yet anyway, for my, no sponsors yet. And so you're going to add beer to the batter, to the flour. It's not batter yet, it's becoming batter, until it is the consistency of a thick batter. I may have to add another little bit of beer. I'm just going to add it slowly here. I can always add more, but you can't take it out. See how thick that is? And it's going to get a little thicker as it sets, as the gluten develops. And that is a 16-ounce bottle of light beer. I've gone to so many restaurants, and I tell you what, I absolutely love beer battered fish. I like beer battered cod, but my favorite was when we lived in Montana. There was a brewery there in town, and they flew in fresh haddock and halibut, and they had their own beer there. That was one of the few restaurants I've ever been to in my life that knew how to make a light, golden, thin, crispy, crunchy crust. And it was delicious. Okay, so this is like a thick, like a pancake batter. And I'm going to let that sit for just a few minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to swap places here. I have some haddock here. And I've got just a bowl with some flour in it. And I'm going to just lightly flour the fish. And that gives, because the fish is kind of, I did towel dry off the fillets. But by dipping them into the flour, what it does is it gives them the opportunity to let set for just a second, and that's going to get something for the beer batter to cling to when I dip it into the beer batter before I put it into the hot oil. I've got my oil behind me at 350 degrees, and as soon as I dip it, I'm going to put it directly into the oil, and we'll do that in just a second. But my daughter, she's loves like fish sticks and things like that. But I know she loves some shrimp. And so I'm going to do some beer batter shrimp, and then I'm going to do some floured shrimp. And so I'm just going to do about half and half. And I've got my chips, my potatoes in the oven. They're oven fries, chips. And I'll have that recipe right next to this one on my Facebook page. Or my YouTube page. Oh, listen to me. I'll probably have it on my Facebook too, though. I normally put it on my Facebook page. All right, that'll be saved for the next one. So we're going to set up. I'm going to turn around and we're going to fry these up. Okay, I've got everything ready to go behind me for the beer battered fish. And one other way that, and I was going to do beer battered shrimp. And then one other way that I like to cook shrimp is for like a shrimp po' boy or just regular old fried shrimp, is I've got a quarter cup of each of these, a quarter cup of all-purpose flour, a quarter cup of self-rising flour, and we're going to do a quarter cup of cornmeal. Just like that. Add a little bit of salt. There's already salt in the self-rising flour. So, and then I'm going to add a little bit of paprika, once again, just for color. It'll add a little bit of color to the shrimp, make them nice and golden without overcooking them. You don't want to cook shrimp too long. So I'm going to mix this up. And listen, there is 1,000 ways to Sunday to fry shrimp. This is just one way, okay? I'm just going to put all those in there. Mix it all up. And if you want to, you can set those on a rack and pop them in your refrigerator until you're ready to fry them. But we're about ready to go here, so I'm not going to put them in the refrigerator. And I'm going to shake them up one more time into this mixture before I fry them. I'm going to set them over here on the side just so any moisture is going to get absorbed. And if I need to, I'll dip them again. And I did have these are just large shrimp, they're not very big. And how I'm going to do these, I left the tail on, they're deveined, and that's all we're going to do with those. And so we're going to be back when I flip around here to my stove. This is Jana and welcome to my kitchen, and we are ready to do some delicious beer battered fish. And here we go. I did test my batter, and perfectly crispy, delicious, light breading. And so I've got my batter here. I've got my fish fillets that have been sitting here, that after they have let the flour on them get ready to absorb. Look at, I've got my oil at 350 degrees. Make sure I got my fish all covered with batter. And I did let my oil heat for a while, even though it reached 350. I did let it heat for a little longer to make sure everything was nice and warm. See how easy this is? This is super easy. Like I said, I go to restaurants, it's like, that's not beer. They say it's beer battered, and I don't know what they're doing, but it's not light and it's not crispy. And I like light and crispy. So I don't want too much batter on mine either. So I'm using a fork so I can get it dipped off there. We're going to reserve this for, guess what? Onion rings. As long as we're going at this, we're going to do onion rings too. And I'm not going to add my other shrimp for just a minute because I want to get everything timed out with your meal. That's very important. And make sure you have your chips, if you're going to do the fries in the oil, that you do those first. And have those ready because the fish doesn't take as long. And it all depends upon the size of your fillets too. I've got about an inch of oil. I'm using peanut oil. And these are going to cook, and so we'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, we are back, and it was time to, you can see it's bubbling up on the top, browning on the sides, and so I already just flipped those. You don't want to knock off any of the batter, so just be real gentle. You can see where my fork was on those. That's why they're dented right there. That was where my fork was on the batter. So anyway, so I've got them flipped, and I'm going to cook them for just a couple more minutes. Okay, our shrimp don't take very long, just until they curl and turn pink. Don't overcook them or they'll be tough. So now we've got our beer battered fish ready to come out. And a couple more beer battered shrimp. Get all the oil shook off that you can so it doesn't absorb back into your nice beer battered shrimps. And now, since we had some leftover batter, I'm going to put in some onion rings. I'm going to turn the fire up a little bit because these don't take as long. Turn it up to 400. And they don't do anything but sit there and sizzle and turn golden brown. I don't normally cook my onion rings right after fish, but I know they're going to be delicious. And we'll be back, and I'm going to show you these onion rings. They don't take very long. Okay, the onion rings are done. The beer battered onion rings. I'm going to drain them onto the paper towel. Nice and crispy. Those will be good with some ketchup, won't they? Woo! Get those out of there. Just like the drive-in when you're growing up. Well, when I was growing up, they didn't do anything out of a food delivery truck other than the basics of onions and whatever. Everything was scratch made back when I grew up and had the drive-in. Some of the kids from school worked in the kitchen, worked as car hops, all of that back in the day. It was a fun time to grow up in the 60s and 70s. Yes, I'm old. So there are our crispy onion rings. Okay, so here's our fish and chips. Listen, crunch, crunch, crunch. Nice, moist, crispy on the outside. A little bit of tartar sauce there. Just delicious. I hope that you try this for your family real soon and have your own fish fry. And Lent's coming up, and a lot of people have fish for every Friday nights, and all of this is good for that. And I hope that you find my recipes to be delicious and that you find a new way to eat in at home. Thank you for stopping by Jana's Kitchen.